We found out one tenant in our old building was paying half the rent that his neighbor paid. Same floor plan, same view, same building amenities. But when we asked around, nobody was surprised by this.
Because renting here is a game and nobody tells you the rules.
So we're going to tell you what we've learned. Hey everybody, Dan and Lauren from Puerto Vallarta, and we just signed a new lease for another year.
Which means we've now been through this rental process twice and learned a lot of things the hard way.
So whether you're thinking about moving here or you're already in PV and looking for your next place, this is everything that we wish someone had told us before we started the rental process. All right, so let's start at the beginning. You want to find a long-term rental in Puerto Vallarta? What do?
Well, back home, you pull up a rental website, scroll through listings, check out floor plans, done.
Yeah, not here. There is no central rental database, nothing like a Zillow or rentals.com. And the sites that do exist, they're aimed at tourists. So the prices that you see online, those are tourist prices.
And sadly, some of them are just straight up scams. So if you're trying to find a place from your couch in the US or Canada, you're probably overpaying before you ever make it to Mexico.
So here's what actually works. Come here, stay short term in a hotel, Airbnb, whatever, and then look around in person.
We hired a real estate facilitator. Best decision we made. She drove us around, showed us over a dozen available condos, and when we looked later, not one of them could be found listed online. It's all about knowing what's available from the area.
And if you do want to do it yourself, just walk or drive through a neighborhood. Look for those Se Renta signs. You'll find places that have never touched the internet.
Word of mouth is big here. Talk to the locals. Talk to other foreigners. The best rentals in PV never make it to the website. They get passed along verbally before they're ever listed. One quick thing though, if you're doing it yourself, get a local SIM card from Telcel or an eSIM, something with a Mexican phone number.
Because when you message a Se Renta number using WhatsApp from a Mexican phone number, you get faster responses. And here's the main reason. When you ask about rent price using a local number, you might get a very different answer than if you message someone from a +1 US or Canada number. Just try it. So before you even start looking, get clear on your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves.
Because PV has everything, oceanfront condos, gated communities, walkable neighborhoods, mountain views, you can find anything, but you can also get overwhelmed and high-priced fast if you don't narrow it down.
How many bedrooms? Pets? Do you need guaranteed parking? Or is street parking going to be fine?
24/7 security, a pool, a gym. Do you need to be walking distance to restaurants and grocery stores?
And the view, ocean view, pool view, mountain view, or are you just okay being in the right neighborhood without paying extra for a view?
Knowing what's optional versus what's non-negotiable will save you so much time. Trust us. We've walked into a rental and immediately knew it was wrong because of having in mind what we really wanted. Okay, budget. This is where people mess up.
The first question any facilitator, agent, or landlord is going to ask you is, what's your targeted monthly spend?
Do not give your top number, lead low, and never say your maximum out loud.
Look, I get it. You might think, well, the price they're asking, it's already less than what I paid back home, so this is fine. I'm saving money. But here's the thing. We know renters in our last building, same floor plan, almost identical view. One of them was paying half of what the other one paid per month because the unit that they were renting had a different owner, one who was more willing to accept a lower rate for a long-term tenant. Most multifamily buildings here are made up of units individually owned by others. So if you really like a building, but maybe not the particulars about one condo's price, or even if you dislike that landlord, there is a good chance that another door in the same building opens to a different owner or even another property manager. So don't be afraid to ask about other units that might be available, and you could find a sweeter deal for much less.
Half the rent, same building.
So do your research. Check Facebook groups, search Reddit, ask people who already live in the neighborhood what they pay, or even visit the pool at that building if they have one, and talk to the other tenants. Before you sign the contract, go in armed with information on what's realistic for that location. And also, be willing to walk away. If the price doesn't make sense, just leave. There are plenty of other places available here.
Negotiating is normal here. Don't just accept the first number. The worst they can say is no. So you found a place. You like it, you're ready to sign, and then they hit you with
the down payment costs. Here's what to expect. First month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit. That's usually equal to 1 month's rent. So that's 3 months up front before you'll ever get the keys.
And we've had some friends who were asked for 6 months up front. 6. Now that's not the norm, but it happens, especially if you don't have a Mexican co-signer.
Some contracts do ask for a fiador, a Mexican citizen willing to guarantee your lease. We did see that, and honestly, most of us don't know that person. The good news is most landlords will waive the cosigner requirement if you're willing to put more money down. So instead of a local guarantor, you just pay a couple extra months up front.
Also, we've been permanent residents in Mexico for over a year now. Nobody has ever asked to see our residency cards. Every contract we've signed just wants copies of our passports.
So what that means is if you're here on a tourist visa and doing 6-month border runs, renting long-term is still very doable. We know people doing exactly that. So you've signed. Now the real question, what are you actually paying for every month?
If it's a condo or a gated community, there's often an HOA fee that covers security, trash, maintenance, pool, gym.
Find out if that's included in your rent or if it's separate, because that can add up to a few $100s extra every month.
Water, gas, internet, and every place we've rented, those were included. But some friends pay for them separately, so always ask.
The one utility that is never included, electric.
And electric can be expensive here, especially in the summer when your AC is running non-stop.
CFE, that's the electric company, they bill every other month. And the bill is always in the landlord's name. So you need to get a copy of the bill or the 30-digit barcode on a prior bill in order to pay it.
And pay it on time. We've heard horror stories. People whose power got cut off in the middle of PV summer because they were a few days late. Do not mess around with the CFE bill.
And a pro tip, ask to see the previous month's electric bills before you sign. We did that and it gave us a real picture of what we could expect to pay. CFE does keep the last several bills online, so you can easily register on their website using that barcode we mentioned to view prior invoices for the very same property. And then you'll know what you can expect to spend. Most rentals here come fully furnished. A lot of owners are used to short-term rentals through Airbnb, so the place is typically all ready to go.
But not always. Some are completely empty, some come partially furnished, where you get the basics, but you can bring your own stuff.
Our first place was partially furnished, very partially. Lauren did an incredible job, though, making it feel like home. There's a link to that condo tour in the description if you want to see what we're talking about.
But then when we moved to our new place, it was already fully furnished. So we had stuff from our old condo that we didn't need anymore.
And here's what's crazy. Our former landlord actually bought the furniture from us. And the new landlord agreed to remove a few items so that we could bring in some pieces of our own. Lauren insists that I drive in the slow lane today because of our precious passengers.
Yeah, they're very important to me. So just ask. If there's something you hate, a couch, a light fixture, whatever, the owner might be more flexible than what you think, especially if it means locking in a long-term tenant.
Both sides won in our case. Don't be afraid to negotiate the furnishings too, not just the rent price. So that's what we've learned renting long-term here in Puerto Vallarta. The online search trap, the upfront costs, the CFE bill, the negotiation game, that's all of it.
And if you're wondering why rent, why not just buy, that's a whole other conversation. We'll cover that in another video because there's a lot to say.
Drop your biggest rental question in the comments. We do read every one. And be sure to hit subscribe if you want to see more on what it's like living full-time in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We hope to see you here around town.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.